I just did my top 10 movies of 2011, or my top 10 movies of 2011 so far. And right now I'm going to do the top 10 worst movies of 2011. These are the films that, while watching them, almost made me not lose the will to live, close but not quite, but at least lose the will to continue watching movies. So, the top 10 worst movies of 2011. So at number 10, now this film was up for an Academy Award for Best Picture. It is extremely long and incredibly crass. Actually I can't even be made to go into it that much. It's a movie about a child who loses his father in 9/11, and he then goes on search for a key that he finds that was his father's, we think. And he goes, you know what, the main character, is annoying beyond belief. Throughout the whole time, you almost start hoping that he will not find his destination because you just want to see this kid fail. Sandra Bullock's role is to look at the child and cry throughout the entire time. The best role in it is Max von Sydow, and he doesn't even talk for the entire thing. Then at number 9 is... Actually, not many people would disagree with this, but in the beginning of 2011, there was a film that came out, a Nicolas Cage film. It was called Season of the Witch. Now, I kind of got this in December, but I'd probably say that you should watch it because it's one of those movies where it's so terrible, but throughout the entire thing, you're laughing. Then at number 8 is the Ron Howard film, The Dilemma, starring Vince Vaughn. And the problem with The Dilemma is that it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know if it's a comedy or if it's a drama. It does the thing where Vince Vaughn can fall out of a tree and yet he doesn't get hurt. Yet it does the thing whenever Winona Ryder's character is barking mad throughout the entire thing. It's as if she's just walked right out of Black Swan. But the film doesn't know what it is, and then throughout the whole time you really stop caring. Then at number 7 is another grindhouse movie that came from the Tarantino stable ever since the whole Death Proof and Planet Terror thing. But it's the film Hobo with a Shotgun. It's Rutger Hauer going around town as a hobo with a shotgun. And he goes around and he kills people, and there's splatter and there's Gru, and it's somewhat fun. But then after about the hour and a half, you start wondering, can we stop doing this, please? Then at number 6, and it's hard for me to do this, but at number 6 is the newest Pixar film, Cars 2, which I love Pixar. I mean, I grew up with Pixar. Everything about Pixar is wonderful, and I think the problem with Cars 2 is that it was such a disappointment, because with them, character is plot. Without a character, you don't have a plot, which is what they believe. They've said that time and time again. Yet with Cars 2, it just feels like an action movie, a bad action movie. And it kind of goes away. The first Cars I didn't like too much, but it was fine because from a design point of view, it was interesting. But in Cars 1, it was about the small town, about the car going to the small town, realizing that the big city is not the important thing. And yet in Cars 2, they bring everyone to the big city, and it's an adventure film, and it's almost as if the two films don't fit at all. And yet, of all of the things they could have done as sequels, that was the one that nobody wanted. Halfway there, at number 5, is the new Todd Phillips production. It is The Hangover Part 2. Now, the first Hangover, I mean, people liked it, but it really wasn't that great, because in the end, the only way to make a Las Vegas movie is to make Leaving Las Vegas, or to make Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because the truth is, Las Vegas is the end of the world. But I mean, after a while in the first one, you kind of got annoyed with the characters. I mean, there are some funny parts, but the funny parts are things that aren't really connected to the story. It's just funny bits that you've seen in other movies. I mean, and I laughed during the first one, but going into the second one, I had already read things about it, but it does the thing that all comedy movies do today. If they aren't confident in the material, it gets louder, it gets bawdier, it gets more disgusting, which this one is. It is genuinely disgusting. And it just made me realize, sadly, how overrated Hangover 1 was. Then at number 4 is the new Zack Snyder film, Sucker Punch, which is described, or at least he described it, as Kill Bill meets Inception, which anything that compares itself to Inception, at least, be careful. But the story is about a girl who is going to get lobotomized, but then she turns out to be in another world where she's a burlesque dancer, but then she's in another world. It is incredible. In his mind, it probably is Inception. Before that, he gave us Watchmen, which I'm not even going to say overrated because most people didn't like that anyway, but Watchmen is also a very bad film. It doesn't know what it's doing throughout the entire thing. Well, I think Sucker Punch showed what's wrong. It's all style over substance with him. And this film really shows that. Sucker Punch is creepy, Sucker Punch is strange, and not in a good way. Then at number 3 is the first film by a director called Julia Lee. It is Sleeping Beauty. It's not the Disney version of Sleeping Beauty, you can find the summary of the movie online, so I won't go into that. But again, it's a really creepy film, but not in the way I think it meant to do. Throughout the whole time, it really starts dragging on because it doesn't really know where it's going. It's almost overindulgent in the art side of things, yet it's trying to become more of an exploitation sleaze film, and it tries to mix the two, which never turns out well. When it does turn out well, it's great, but this movie doesn't do it very well. It was described by the director to be Eyes Wide Shut, but good, which is, that's a bold statement, at least I think. So I'd say if you're going to watch that, go into it with a lot of trepidation because it's a tough watch, but it's not a tough watch in a good way. Then at number 2 is the new film by the Kendrick brothers. It is Courageous, which if you've seen the others before, well actually if you saw the first movie they did, Flywheel, they then remade Flywheel, but called it Facing the Giants, then they remade Facing the Giants, but called it Fireproof, and then they remade Fireproof, and now we have Courageous, which is about 4 fathers who want to be better fathers. It's a film that has no subplots. It's a film, well, to call it a film is a scarce word in and of itself, but it's very boring. And the problem is, no matter what the message is, if you're delivering it with bad acting, bad directing, bad lighting, bad camera work, bad everything, it doesn't really matter. The whole thing's just kind of blah. It's not a movie. It's not a movie in any sense of the word. But it made its way into cinemas and we had to watch it. So it's number 2 on the worst movies of 2011. Then at number 1 is the newest offering by Michael Bay, Transformers 3. Now, Transformers 4 is already on the way, which I am already dreading. But Michael Bay is definitely one of the worst filmmakers out there today. The way he views the way to make films is explosions. Explosions and women over cars. Women over cars. I mean, if he were not one of the most popular directors nowadays, he would be directing another section of cinema. Transformers 3 clocks in at about a little over 2.5 hours, which is 15 minutes more than 2001, which this has absolutely no story in comparison. So throughout the whole thing, the boy runs through giant things exploding, he dodges a bunch of robots that are exploding, and throughout the whole thing, you're just sitting there wondering, why is this still out here? Why are people still asking for this kind of thing? And the last hour of the movie is a battle. Any editor in their right mind would tell you that no battle should ever go on for an hour, because you don't know who's going where or what's happening to whoever, or a robot, whatever. So throughout the whole thing, you're disconnected from the characters entirely. The characters are action figures. The characters are incredibly two-dimensional, even though the film was in 3D. But Transformers 3 gives you such a headache throughout the entire thing, because having to sit through 2.5 hours of that thing makes you want to give up watching movies altogether.